Good morning, guys. All right, so today we're going to read a nonfiction book about polar bears to kind of be compared to our Ida Always book, okay? Because remember, in the Ida Always book, we learned about some animals and their emotions, but it was a fiction book because it talked about the animals like talking to each other. Even though we know animals communicate, they wouldn't be able to talk to the zookeeper and everything too. So we're going to read a nonfiction book that's going to give us some actual facts about polar bears. So polar bears, and we can tell this is a nonfiction book because if we look, remember this is that nonfiction text feature that helps us find information in a book called a table of content. Life in the Arctic. Polar bears are the world's largest land carnivores. So what that means is they are the biggest animal that lives on the land that is a carnivore or only eats meat. They live on sea ice and the frozen Arctic tundra, so just like our other Arctic animals that we talked about. These great white bears have adapted to make their biome their home. And so we can see another nonfiction text feature right here that is a map that's going to show us. It says the polar bears range. So here is where you can find polar bears in this yellow area. Polar bears have black skin. Their skin takes in heat. Two thick layers of fur trap the heat. So a lot of people look at a polar bear and they just assume that a polar bear is white, but underneath that white skin, that white fur, they actually have that black skin. And what is important about it being black is a color that absorbs light waves. So it's going to absorb all those light waves, and that way it's going to trap in some heat. And so then that white fur comes on top and it attracts all that heat in and it keeps that heat in. So if you look very carefully when it's really wet, you can kind of see it's showing us some labeling right here, that black skin underneath. Blubber under the skin also helps them keep them warm. And so blubber is one of these vocabulary words that we can look up in the glossary. And what blubber is it's a layer of fat. So that fat helps insulate or keep the warmth in from their bodies. Polar bears have big padded feet for walking on snow and ice. Small bumps on the bottom of their feet help them keep them from sliding on ice. Clean swimmers. Staying clean and dry keeps polar bears warm. They bathe in open water, they lick their feet, then they shake the water from their fur. So you can see them cleaning right now. And so the polar bear stats. So remember when we looked at Arctic hares and Arctic foxes, they were of least concern on or being endangered or being extinct. It means that there are lots of Arctic foxes and lots of Arctic hares, so they're not worried about them going into extinction. Polar bears fall into this vulnerable category. They're in the yellow, which means they are more likely to become endangered or extinct than the Arctic hares and the Arctic foxes. Polar bears can swim for many hours to find food. So they're really good swimmers. And so here are some of those. Remember we talked about adaptations. An adaptation is something in an animal that helps them survive. So one of the adaptations that the polar bear has, remember, is that black skin underneath. And that adaptation, remember, lets them draw in and then trap that heat in their body to keep warm. And then those large padded feet help them when they're walking on the ice. And then there's something new right here. They actually have webbed toes. A lot of times you only see webbed toes in either types of birds like ducks that swim or in frogs, because frogs can, because they help you swim. So they have these webbed toes and they paddle using their webbed front toes. This helps them steer and helps them swim quickly. Seals are polar bears' favorite food. They spend hours waiting at seal blowholes. When seals take a breath, the bear strikes. You can see this polar bear was just sitting here waiting until a seal can get up to the top. A milting hunting ground. Polar bears mostly eat the blubber of ringed seals. They can eat 100 pounds of blubber in one meal. So it takes a lot of food to keep a polar bear happy. When seals are hard to find, polar bears walk the rocky shores looking for food. They eat seaweed and beached whales. They will even eat garbage. So here's your polar bear diet. This is what they usually like to eat. They love the ring seals, the bearded seals, and even beluga whales. They can actually even get whales. Climate change is causing polar bears' icy homes to melt, but their adaptations help them stay afloat. And so we have the glossary for some of those words if we didn't know them. And then we have an index. You're going to get to draw your own polar bear, and you're going to show me some of those things that are special about a polar bear that help it survive, those adaptations. So we're going to use labeling for that, but I'm going to show you how we're going to do it first, okay? So we're going to go ahead and pause and connect to Seesaw. All right, guys, so in Seesaw, I have added this like very simple polar bear outline for you. If you want to use this to start with, you can, or you can choose to make your own polar bear and just take the picture off or add a new slide, okay? So, but this is my outline of a polar bear. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw and show some of the adaptations, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. Well, the first thing I remember about a polar bear is the polar bear actually has black skin. So I'm just going to kind of draw kind of like a black patch, and then I'm going to do some labeling. So I'm going to draw a line. Remember how I had the arrows? I'm going to draw an arrow to it, and then I want to type it just because. I'm going to put black skin to keep warm. And I'm going to put it up there because that's labeling a part of the polar bear that's important. Now, one of the other things that I saw about a polar bear is I saw that they have webbed feet to help them swim. So what I can do is I'm going to kind of show, I'm just going to put some little lines on their feet so it shows that they're kind of webbed. And then I'm going to put my text box, and I'm going to say webbed feet to help them swim. So I'm going to move it over here, and then I'm going to draw my line to label that, okay? Now, I know that you're not going to be able to type all these words, and that's okay. What you can do is if you can't write the words, what you can do is that you can point at something. You can sound it out the best way you can. So if I want to say teeth, I can put T, 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 E, that double E, digraph E, and then TH. And then I can go over and I can hit my recording, and I can tell about the different parts. So if I don't want to do the other, I can tell. See, I'm recording right now, and I can say, okay, polar bears have sharp teeth to help them hunt. Polar bears have black skin to keep them warm. Polar bears have webbed feet to help them swim. And then I could point at the fur and say, polar bears have thick fur to keep them warm. And I might write fur over here. So if you can't type out the words, you can always sound them out the best you can and just read the words to me when you're talking. I am so excited to see what you guys can do with your pictures of polar bears and the different adaptations you can think about for them. You guys did an awesome job. I'll see you later.